Excited to have you all here today. Let me share my screen. Doing all the things on Zoom can get a little crazy at times. So let's get to that. Okay, so welcome everyone to one of our first demo days of the year. We figured we'd end the year doing these different demo days for different ERPs here at the ISV Society. So you have a great lineup of ISVs today. And as you can see, we have Yooz, Implementation Specialists, MetaViewer, Dynamic Budgets, and Blue Moon. As you know, this is being recorded, and we will be sharing this recording with everyone afterwards. We know it can be a little long because it's 20 minutes. So if you can only stay on for a few demos or all the demos, great, but just know that it is going to be recorded and shared afterwards. So that way, if you miss anything, no worries, you will get those at the end. I will probably send out this email recording tomorrow is my goal. So just stay tuned for that in your emails. These are our speakers for today, and this is the lineup for today. So Liz will be kicking us off from Yooz, and then we have Cheryl from Implementation Specialist, Doug from MetaViewer, Zubin from Dynamic Budgets, and David from Blue Moon. And this is what we'll be talking about in each segment, or what they will be showing you in each segment. They are leaving a couple of minutes during their 20 minutes for some Q&A. So if you do have questions, put them in the Q&A section, and we will be monitoring them towards the end of their 20 minutes. So with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen and let Liz take it from here.
All right. Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you. I'm Liz Heisel. I'm a senior account executive at Yooz. And let's get going here. I'm just going to show you a couple slides here, just a quick overview about us, just to give you a little bit of history of our technology, and then a little bit about our culture as well. We are a worldwide organization. Our headquarters in the US are in Dallas, Texas. That's where I'm located. And then also over in Europe. So Yooz has over 5,000 customers in over 40 countries. Our technology actually dates back about 40 years from an organization named Idasoft, who has some deep OCR and machine learning experience. So when everything transitioned from being on-premise based to cloud-based, that's when they formed Yooz. So we were able to leverage that proprietary technology, the AI deep OCR experience. And so we've always just been, AP automation has been our single focus. And, we've taken the feedback directly from our customers and have added some amazing product developments and releases along the way. We are a Dynamics Communities marketplace partner. Here's just a few of our GP clients. But, we are extremely scalable with unlimited users, unlimited companies inside of Yooz, unlimited workflows, and also unlimited bank accounts when it comes to payments. But we're pretty agnostic when it comes to verticals and size organizations. It doesn't matter if you're, only processing 100 invoices a month or 100,000. Yooz is very configurable to your organization. Just want to go over, the overview of the workflow here before I hop into the demo. Yooz is a full P2P solution. So we do have a purchasing module where if you wanted some additional controls around your purchasing process, users can go create purchase requests. They can go through an approval workflow, convert to purchase orders, send out to your vendors. We do have good reception enablement, and so 2- and 3-way matching. When invoices come in, we can automate the capture of your invoices through your dedicated AP inbox that you might already have. So everything would be coming in real time. Any kind of invoices you still receive via snail mail, we can, just drop those into a scanner, a batch file, send them into Yooz. Yooz can automatically split them for you. You can even take a photo from your phone. Of your invoice, send it in. And also, any kind of vendor portals that you might have, we can create direct EDIs just to send invoices in through data. Once it hits Yooz, our OCR will then start that smart data extraction process, and the invoice will be available in 20 to 30 seconds to review. So the review step is where, you would have normally where your AP clerk or an employee would go and code that invoice manually, match it to purchase orders if necessary. that's all automated now. So we're reducing that manual data entry. We do have GL memorization on your coding with non-purchase order related invoices and automatic PO matching. Once that review process is done, they will submit it through to an approver. Now, these approval workflows, again, all customized to your business process. So we're not trying to fit a square peg in a round hole type of thing. We can be very intentional on where we want these to route with extremely customized workflow routing. Once they're approved, then we also have automated payments. So we can release payments to your vendors. The great thing here is that you no longer have to manage the method of payment that your vendor would like to receive. So they would go through an onboarding process, select their preferred payment method, and that would release to them either a virtual check, which has cashback opportunities there, ACH, or a mailed check. And all of this information, the posting, the payment remittance will all export directly back into GP. Up at the top, you'll see what's called a no-touch workflow. So this is a specific workflow that we can assign at any point in this process to be straight through and autonomous. For example, if there was a perfect match on a PO-based invoice, maybe it doesn't need an approval afterwards. So that would just go straight in to create that batch into GP. I just want to go over really quickly just the data flow. So we do have a GP connector to make this a completely automated integration. So on your initial setup, we will have your complete list of vendors, your chart of accounts list inside of Yooz, and then we can set a schedule to automatically update new vendors, new chart of account changes. Same thing with purchase orders. We can send those in on a hourly basis or daily basis, however you might need it. So Yooz will be a mirror of your GP environment. So everything will seem very familiar to you. Invoices come in. Once they are approved, every hour we can create that batch draft that will push into GP. And so you can go and post that batch in there. So we'll create those entries, and then we'll also bring a link to the invoice image and the record of Yooz. Then the process would continue within Yooz. We send the vendor payment, and then daily we can update GP with that payment confirmation and that remittance. So let's go ahead, hop into the good stuff here. Here is Yooz. So we're just going to pop into the environment. Every user will have their own login. I've already uploaded some invoices just in the sake of time here. But just to show you the main workspaces where we can set up that automated email integration would be up here at the top in your capture workspace. So your email capture, if you have multiple companies with multiple email addresses, we can have those auto forward into Yooz, and then it would automatically assign to that particular company. So I brought in some invoices today. They're in this My Tasks component. So every user, this is where they're going to live. You see that I have my own to-do component. So I'm going to act as the accountant right now. You can see I've got, two different types of invoices in my queue here, one purchase order based and then non-purchase order based. You can see my task is to review. Then at the bottom, you have an in progress component. So this is going to be your window of visibility to everything that's going on inside of AP. You can see where all invoices are, with whom, and what which task needs to be performed. And every single column here, the layout of the screen, even down to the color of this interface, is completely configurable to the user preference. So we'll go ahead and just click into our first invoice. You can see it's 100% complete. So not much I have to do here on these invoices. I'll click into my first invoice, give you a lay of the land here. On our left side are going to be our header fields. Again, all configured to your same header fields in GP. On the right side is your invoice viewer here, and uses OCR. It is 85% accurate out of the box. Machine learning takes that accuracy rating to 95% and above that we've seen with our clients, because it is full text indexing on this optical character recognition, meaning you don't need to set up any vendor templates, and there's no outsourcing or human-backed data validation. It's all the AI working for you. So as you tab through these header fields here, you can see that Yooz recognized it was a PO-based invoice. It recognized our vendor. Then when we get to a set of data, it's picked up from the invoice itself. It will highlight that for you in yellow. So very easy to just make this quick validation and confirm that everything Yooz picked up was correct. Because this is a PO-based invoice, Yooz read this PO number. We have that purchase order data in the back end of the system. So it found that data, matched it here, and then populated these lines with their specified coding, your cost codes, any kind of department codes. If you have project tables, job tables, that would all be visible here. And with all of these different types of data sets, as far as cost codes, vendor type, maybe the person that created the PO, those are the conditions that we can create to automatically route our approval processes. We can set up approval routing for any kind of PO discrepancies as well. So we can see here it's a perfect match because we have a balanced GL here, and it's matched automatically to our invoice. If it wasn't a perfect match, it would look something like this, right? So it found that data, matched it for us, making this a breeze. If we ever want to add some, supporting documentation, you can select that plus button, and then we can add, some supporting documentation. If these are, BOLs, quotes, anything that you need to attach to this, we're going to create this virtual filing cabinet here on our invoice. We can communicate. All communication can be housed internally inside of Yooz. We can @mention people just like you do on these socials. If you wanted to point and click to something here on the invoice, I can hold my mouse down, hover it over these words, and it will actually extract those words into this comment. And that works for every individual field. We could also block this invoice if we needed to put it on hold. We can forward it to another user to complete this task, but we're good to go here. So I'll submit it. It will show me who it's routing to next in my queue per the workflows built in the back end. We can confirm and move on to our next invoice. Now this next invoice I'm going to start moving at a pace that you normally would. Our vendor is General Petroleum here. So again, I'm just making this quick confirmation. Yooz picked up everything correctly here. Now we're at a case where this is a non-PO based invoice, and we're coding to make possibly multiple lines. So here's where our GL memorization takes place. Yooz has memorized that we have coded General Petroleum to these 3 cost centers in the past. So now we just have to make a quick allocation here. So if I wanted to code this, by line, I could just point and click, and it will recall that amount into that particular field. Maybe I want to add these 2 together here. I can hold my mouse down, lasso in these 2 amounts, and you'll see in this field, it automatically added them for me. I also like to show an even split mathematical formula like you would do in Excel. Even split, we divide the total amount by 3. That arrow will propagate that value down here. And you can see I have my balanced line with all of my particular coding. You can also click this entries tab, and it will show you the journal entries in the tables that these are going to hit within GP. I'll submit this, and it'll populate another invoice, which this next invoice, all my workflows in the back end, they have a 2-step approval for any invoice that's greater than $4,000. So this being a $6,000 invoice, when I go to submit it, and you can see we only code this to 1 line, so that's automatically populated. I'll submit it, and you can see it's going to go to Ms. Johnson instead of Mr. Jones for that first level approval. And then our final, we do have 3 levels of duplicate detection here: at the file level when invoices come in, at the invoice image level, and then also at the payment level. So here is showing the duplicate detection at the invoice image level using a combination of our data points, such as your vendor, your invoice number, your total amount, invoice date, etc. So we can easily open this document up to see the duplicate that Yooz found, and doing a quick match, say, yes, this is a duplicate. You can delete it, mark it as a duplicate, things like that. We have some amazing controls inside of Yooz of what users are able to see, what they're able to edit. We can even narrow down specific master data, like only specific users need. You can only code to some chart of accounts. So we can be very granular in our permission levels that we give users. I'm going to hit this impersonation button here, and I'm going to show you, hop into the shoes of an approver here. So you can see in this approvers queue, it's got a few things to approve. In the case that there was an invoice that you opened up and you'd like to send it back, maybe something was coded incorrectly, right? You can hit the send back button, and then you would be able to select who you'd like to send it back to within all of your users. You can also see in this clock icon, the full audit trail and timeline, who has done what and when at any point in time on this invoice, and then your full data trail. So you're always going to have that full visibility into your accounts payable with every individual document. And we can have full document management here within Yooz. So if you needed to bring in contracts, give them a due date so we can manage when we need to revisit those contract periods, we can do that as well. We have that smart document recognition, so we can look at contracts. If those are credit memos, we can process those through HR documents. So you can utilize Yooz for full content management. But to complete something in a batch, which is typically what our approvers like to do, and you can access Yooz from any device because we are cloud hosted at any point in time. So approvers love to do this from their phone. They go into this complete component. If you wanted to pop into one of these invoices just from a bird's eye view here, you can select this caret. It will give you a split screen of the invoice image on your right-hand side. And then all of that header field, coding information down here at the bottom. We do have a budget tool within Yooz where we can build budget tables and assign them here to your particular invoices and purchase orders and requisitions. So approvers can just kind of come down the line here, give it a quick glance and say, okay, these are good to go. I'm going to click this and now approve it. So all of that shuffling of paper, emailing people back and forth, right? Trying to get these approvals in line, having no way to track. Yooz solves all of this, right? We have that in progress component. We can set up escalations and email notifications to keep some of those on track that just need, a little more of a helping hand. That way, we can keep all of our, our relationships intact. You don't want to be the bad guy always with somebody who might be an approver who's, that habitually late person. All right, so now we're ready. Now that we've approved those, right, that batch that we just approved, we'll go and send. You can post that into GP. To release payment, I'm just going to impersonate my payer and select the payment button on one of your invoices. Like I said, you can, once you hit the pay button, that will deliver to your vendor in the payment method that they prefer. We can select which bank account you'd like to release this payment from. You can short pay this. You only wanted to pay half of this invoice. And once you hit pay, that's sent out and the payment confirmation information will go straight into GP as well. I know I'm at time here, but just, that's kind of the very brief version just to show you how we're able to complete that process within Yooz. Some really amazing other tools that we have, like reporting, searching capabilities. So love to hear from you all in the future if you'd like to see a tailored demo to your exact process.
Thank you, Liz. This was great. I appreciate you showing us this. So yeah, like I said, we'll be sending out these recordings so you can see these demos. But thank you. So we will be, if there's not any questions, if there is questions, put them in the Q&A, we can get to them. But if there aren't any questions, we'll go on to our next group. So that would be Cheryl and Deb from Implementation Specialists. They're going to be showing you a few different tools today. Welcome, Deb and Cheryl.
Hello, thanks, Amy.
All right, so I'll let you take it away.
All right, you can see my screen okay?
I can see you. I can see Deb. I can see you, your screen. Everything looks good. I figure everybody could just present and show themselves during the presentation, and then all of us will just be behind the scenes while everybody else is presenting. So I'll let you take it away.
Sounds good. All right, Deb, you want to jump in?
I will. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Amy, for having us today.
Sure.
Appreciate the the time to talk about wsTools and implementation specialists. So welcome everyone. I'm Deb Slotmone. I'm the owner here at Implementation Specialist. I've got Cheryl Simmons with me as well. Cheryl's going to be running all the magical things you guys see. I'm going to tell you, I'm not really responsible for magic. So she does a great job at that, but welcome everyone. We're talking today about some of our favorite tools. We make probably a collection of about 75 different products that we package for customers all around the world. And those are things that customers have asked us to do, things that they have been waiting for in product and haven't gotten in real-time product that we make for them. And those are the ones that Cheryl's going to bring and show you guys here in a little bit, a few of ours. And she's going to talk about everything that we do, but Implementation Specialist is a long-term partner with GP, Microsoft, a VAR as well. We help customers everywhere, like our slide says, transforming Dynamics GP business process. So Cheryl, with that, I'm going to let you keep going.
All right. And Deb mentioned we have over 75 tools and all of them built on top of Dynamics GP, as well as we have a set that's built on top of Winsoft, which is an ISV that sits on top of Dynamics GP as well. And right here, just kind of a quick little view of what they all are. And don't worry, we're not going to try to demo all of these today because, again, 20 minutes, so we're going to hit some highlights. But as you can see, they're in all different modules, whether that's in payroll, payables, receivables, the distribution series, system items as well. So just throwing those out there. And then the second slide here shows those that are with the Winsoft product as well. And so lots and lots on both of them. We all have our favorites, but we won't cover all of them today. We are just going to cover 4 of them. But if you want to see any of those others, just reach out to us and we can definitely talk and give a demo to any of those as well. The 4 that we've picked to talk about today, MassPOClose, and this one is just releasing now. It's one of our brand new tools, and I know we were on a little while ago and mentioned it, and Amy's like, "Ooh, I like that," and I'm like, "Yeah, we'll talk about it more when we come back and actually do the demo portion, as well as we'll take a look at a couple other ones on the payables side. Quick, easy, changing the vendor on a purchase order on a payables transaction." Especially as you think about what we've gone through with supply chain issues, right? You order something from a vendor and they say, "Hey, I can't deliver," and you want to change that whole PO over to a different vendor, can easily do it without having to rekey it or copy or any of that kind of thing. So we'll show that in action, as well as RMUnapply/PMUnapply. So PMUnapply is our tool, but Deb, you always talk about this one. I'll let you talk about this one at a high level too.
Perfect. Definitely. PMUnapply. I use this every day. So it's like one of my favorites. If you use the RMUnapply for Microsoft, the biggest question we always get is, where is PMUnapply, right? So as soon as somebody finds RMUnapply, that is like the next phone call that I get. So we made PMUnapply quite a few years back. And it like I said, I use this every day. It is one of my favorites. It works exactly like RMUnapply does. You've already paid the vendor, you did something, you need to undo it. They're giving you a credit, you're not paying that invoice, but you already wrote a check for that invoice. You're going to be able to unapply that document and still have the payment. The vendor's got the check, he's cut the check, or he's cashed the check. So your PMUnapply is going to work. If you think about how RMUnapply works, we have the PMUnapply version. And once you've seen that, you will not go back to issuing debit memo after credit memo, trying to fix stuff that you're just trying to fix. It's so clean and so easy to work with. So Cheryl's going to demo that one a little bit, and we're excited about that one, right, Cheryl?
Yeah. Yes. And the last one is the PayImportPlus. So if you have to do raises and get those pay codes increased at a certain time of year and get them in, we have some customers that do payroll every week. So you have a small little window to get those pay increases in. We'll show you how you can easily export data out, do them in a spreadsheet, and import them back in and be ready to go for that new pay run.
With all the roll downs and all of the HR change tracking, all of those things that you need to record, this is just something that our giant payrolls were asking us to do, right, Cheryl? They were asking us to do it, and they're like, "Okay, I'm going to send you this file on Monday. I need it in by Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. And those are the things that we were turning around very quickly. And it's like, this is something that end users need to be able to do as fast as we do. give them the tools to do it. So that it's one of my favorites. Again, like I have a lot of favorites, right, Cheryl?
Oh yes, we all do. We all do. And we're only going to hit on these four, but again, I just want to mention that all of our tools are a la carte. Like you can buy, each one separately, or if you say, hey, I want all 5 of these, can we do a bundle deal? Whatever it is. So yeah, each one of them can be purchased and ran separately in your system. So just wanted to mention that before we jump into GP, which I'm dying to do, Deb, so I'm jumping.
You go right ahead. Go right ahead, because definitely once you start showing them, I know people are going to have tons of questions. And remember, these are all out on our website too. So if there's something that caught your eye, check our website out, because there's little mini demos on all of them as well.
All right, so I just want to make sure you can see my GP screen now.
We can, Cheryl. Very impressive.
Yay! Well, I got the new window open, which is our MassPOClose window. And again, this is one that we're just finishing up development on. And so I'll talk about how it works and kind of hit some highlights, because again, I know we're in our little 20-minute window, so we'll keep moving. But this gives you the capability to see which POs you have open. And I hate to tell you that we have a customer we're working with recently who's like, yeah, we got some old POs out there. And we start looking at their data, and yeah, they had like 8,000 old POs that were out there that needed to get closed like prior to 2021. And so just, giving you that snapshot, and here I have it wide open, but you can see that you can do filters across the top if you're looking for a specific purchase order, specific vendor, a PO dates. And a lot of times I hear like customers say, yeah, I just want to see all my POs, over 6 months old, right? And you can take a look and pull those in. And on the top portion here, you can see that this is telling us which PO lines are available for closing. And so, and it tells us what status they're in, what we ordered, how many we received, how many we invoiced. And here's a prime example of, if you can see these, because I'm sure this is all small on your screen, but for this particular purchase order line that we ordered 5, we received 4 and invoiced 4. Right. So it's like, okay, are we going to get that additional one or not? And you can, if you're knowing that you're not, you could mark it to close that particular line. And if that's the only outstanding line on the purchase order, it'll actually close the purchase order as well for you. But this is all seeing all of the line data here for the different purchase orders. On the bottom, it's also showing you which purchase order lines can you not close and telling you why not. Right, it's kind of giving you that listing. And some of these I do have Winsoft loaded as well, so you'll see that the Winsoft column is listed. If you're only running GP, again, you won't have anything here for the Winsoft piece of it. But this is saying that this is tied to a service call or job, service call in this case, and it's telling us that this particular purchase order line has already been invoiced on the service call, and so you need to take action. We can't just close this line and cancel it, but we actually need to take action because you've already billed the customer for it. So it's like, okay, so do you need to give them, a credit for that? Those type of things, right? So it's telling you these are the ones you got to take action on, and you can't automatically close them. But any of these on top, you could actually click this select all button here, and you could close every line for all of the purchase orders that are listed up here on top, and it would go out and do. So pretty cool, right, Deb?
It is. And especially if your PO windows are getting really slow, right? And you're starting to see like, okay, we're adding more indexes, we're trying to do more tuning, but things are just really getting slow. Any of our lookups, those types of things on the PO side, running that MassPOClose just keeps those records cleaner. We were doing this for lots of our large companies within SQL Direct, trying to help them just clean up and take control. And this tool, I think, really, again, puts it back into the hands of users, gives them the process and the tools to transform their business.
Yep, and this actually does, the closing, but you still have to move them to history if that you still have to do that process as well. So just want to make sure that we're just closing / canceling the PO lines at this point, and the headers if appropriate. So very cool, very cool.
Perfect.
All right, well, speaking of PO, we're going to do our next one in the PO entry here. Let me go ahead and just pull up a purchase order, and we'll talk about changing vendors. And, we kind of talked the scenario of, supply chain issues, those type of things. But here I have a purchase order that's, I haven't, as long as you have not done the receiving, the shipment invoice pieces of this purchase order, you can come in and change the vendor information on it. So up here under additional, we have the change vendor ID. and it pops up a new window. And here we're on the attractive, let's see, attractive telephone company. I think I got my right purchase order, and then I can go ahead and pick a different vendor for my lookup. I'm going to go to Associated Insurance and click commit. And then you'll notice as I do that commit, it refreshes your purchase order and you can see that new vendor information. Again, then you could print this out or email it to your new vendor and be on your way. So again, you couldn't have received against this purchase order though. I would just want to be clear on that as well.
And really, like Cheryl talked about earlier with supply chain issues, you know, people were issuing POs and then finding out that someone could not make delivery and get the product to them. And instead of having to do the copy and start all over and have a wasted PO number, you're able to quickly and easily respond to that change.
Let's take a look at another one. This was, like you said, the MassPOClose. We have the PMUnapply, and here's the tool there. So again, we're going to just pull up payable here. Let's see. Let's use that attractive telephone. I like that attractive telephone company. I just think it's a funny name in our sample data, but let's go ahead and pull them in here. And we have down here at the bottom on my sample data, you're going to see I have a test invoice for $1,000. And I also have a payment sitting here for $1,000 sitting in history. Does everybody see that piece of it? So let's say I should not have applied this payment to this invoice. And so I want to choose to unapply it. So right here in this unapply column, I'm going to go ahead and mark that column here on the $1,000. And again, they're sitting in history. We'll do our little magic. We'll go ahead and click unapply. Clears the window. But I'm going to go over here. Let's just pull up those transactions for that same vendor. So that was the attractive telephone company. And going to get rid of that history. I just want to see the open, and oh, look at here, right? Here's that payment for $1,000 is now unapplied from the test invoice. And so again, if I needed to apply that payment to a different invoice, because I do have several outstanding on this vendor, I can do that and reprocess and be on our way. So again, like you said, if you need to make some corrections, get the payments applied to the rate or credit, you know, whatever it might be, you can use the unapply tool.
Or simply just void that invoice that we, you know, for some reason, the vendor is issuing us, they're like, scrap that invoice. I know you paid it, but scrap that invoice. I'm going to resend you a new one. Well, those things, 12 documents later, you might have it all together and then try to explain that whole thing in your stack of, okay, now I got to try to get this through somebody else. Just makes it so much cleaner, right? I can simply unapply it, do my void process. Now my payment's still out there. That payment still was created for the vendor's cashed it. I don't want to mess with that payment, right? Like I normally would have to do without PMUnapply.
All right, switching gears a little bit. I know we're down to our final minutes here. I want to talk a few minutes about PayImportPlus, and this is on the payroll side for those of you that have the payroll system. We have two options, and the first one we're going to take a look at is pay rate export. Go ahead and open up that window. Move that over here. Gives you lots of options here to kind of slice and dice your data, because maybe you're an organization that, you know, every manager needs their own printout, or every department, right? So you could do, you know, each department, slice them out, send them into a different Excel spreadsheet and where they can do their changes. And so let's go ahead and show how you can do that. So I'll say, I'm just going to do construction today. I'm going to choose that as my department. And then down here at the bottom, you can choose which pay codes you want to take out. And let's say I don't want to take all of them out. Everybody that I'm going to do my raises for or changes they're on the hourly pay code or the hourly premium. So let's go ahead and select those. We'll choose export to Excel. And my Excel open on my other monitor. There it is. It has all of the data here, and including their old pay rate right here. And then it adds a column for you to put into the new pay rate. And it actually has them be the same to start out with. But again, you could distribute these if you were a payroll HR and you were handing them out to your different department managers, give them these spreadsheets, let them have at it. And then the magic will happen when they come back in. So I'm going to close this one because I already got one saved out here. And we are going to switch over. Oh, my screen went blank. Sorry about that. Close that one. And we're going to go into the pay rate import window. Bring this one over here. First thing is, where do you want to import that particular file from? So let me jump out here to my desktop. I happen to have one out here already saved. And if you had multiple tabs on that spreadsheet, you could see here, like maybe you had one called construction, one called technicians, whatever it might be, they can be listed here. Right here, Deb, do you want to talk about that roll down? You kind of mentioned it earlier, but let's talk about that here before we do it.
Well, it's a big deal to be able to say, okay, we brought in the salary, we brought in the hourly, but there is probably hundreds of codes that are based on those two for each employee. And so making sure that we did it full circle, right? Not just touch one thing, but touch it all and make sure it's right. So what we did is give the users the option of whether or not they want to roll those rate changes down. So if something is based on it, right, having our based ons correct, those pay codes underneath are going to be updated as well. So you see here Cheryl saying roll down the rate, roll down. That means, you know, she's updating her hourly. Well, if there's an overtime, if there's holiday, if there's vacation, PTO, all of those now are going to be impacted as well, which is really makes it easier if your payroll's got a good setup. If those things aren't 100%, those are things that can be fixed and be modified to get that payroll to 100%. Okay.
Yep, or you could have included them in the original export and made
Awesome.
all those changes. But what I think is cool is, yeah, like you said, if payroll is set up correctly and you have all of those double time, time and a half, holiday, all those based on your core hourly pay code, making this one change and importing these in would automatically update, roll those down to all the others. And here you see, I'm going to take my $25 current people to 30. And I'm not changing this particular rate here on the premium pay. I'm leaving that on the 20. But in this window, if let's say I had, you know, a 0 in for that new rate on the premium pay, it would actually give me a message that said your new rate is going to be 0. And it's a warning, just like, is that really what you meant? And again, you don't have to fix warning messages, but if there's any kind of error messages, they would be listed over here on the right-hand side. And I just clicked import while Deb was talking there from Excel. So it brought in what was in the Excel sheet. And at this point, it's not doing anything yet until I click update pay records. So I can put in, I'm doing the change today, you know, updating your HR information of like, this is the yearly change, whatever that might be, type in, and that'll be part of the record as well as it creates these changes. So I'll go ahead and click update pay records. And that was quick, right?
Magical.
And you think about having to manually go update all of those pay codes, which I know is what a lot of users do today. And so definitely a huge time saver, efficiency. And again, you can import, you know, multiple spreadsheets and really have this process go pretty slick. So.
Okay, cool. Cheryl, you're down just to a minute or two. So you want to talk about GPUC for just a second?
Yeah, let me click on back to the slides here. Let's see.
And like I said, there's tons of these on our website. Check us out. See it, tons of the favorites that we have, right?
Yeah. Well, my slides moved. I didn't do that.
Jump back one. There you go.
There you go.
Good. So fast approaching GPUC, right, Cheryl?
Right. Yep. You want to mention GPUC?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. And that is our customer conference that we host in Fargo at the Microsoft campus. We do it always the yearly week before Thanksgiving. So we're coming up to the 13th through the 17th. We're just a few days out here. So our team is mad scrambling, trying to make sure everything is ready. But we do a week-long conference, Monday through Friday. Tons of sessions. I think we run 5 rooms at Microsoft at the campus here locally. And we do 5 rooms. Cheryl, I think you're doing 7 to 8 sessions a day across those 5 rooms. So literally hundreds of sessions dedicated to GP, dedicated to all things that GP Dynamics users want to see and want to hear about, want to, you know, have a smaller venue. Summit's awesome. We love the community summit, but it is large, it's very large. This is dedicated to GP users. It's both in person and virtual, and tons of sponsors, tons of people that come in, lots of things. Cheryl, I know I'm missing some, so please add.
Yeah, well, and different types of sessions, right? Just general sessions. We do deep dives, we do round tables, and again, like you said, and sponsors also presenting their products as well. So lots of fun things going on there, and a little social time as well, I'll just say.
Yeah. we have a little bit of fun too. Our whole team comes in for this. It's probably the only time during the year that our entire team is in one place at one time. So we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun putting this event on, and just a great time for all. Our users that come into it absolutely love it. They come back year after year because they're learning. They love it. We talk about the whole transforming your business, talking about extending what your users do, and also about education. And education is key. So awesome. Amy, I know we're over. We're sorry.
That's okay. I was
Amy,
actually
I think you're giving some passes, right?
Yes,
well?
I was going to launch a poll to see who would like to learn more about GPUC. So I have launched that right now. And then they are graciously, Deb and Cheryl, offering to give out 5 passes to GPUC. So if you registered and attended this webinar today, you will be qualified. We'll put you in a poll, and pick your names out. But feel free to answer this poll as well, so we can also send you more information. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for offering those free passes. I feel like learning is always so important, and you guys are so committed to the GP community. It's awesome.
Thanks, Amy.
All right. Next up, we have Doug from MetaViewer. Hey, Doug.
Hey, Amy. Thanks. Welcome, everybody. Let me get here and share my screen.
Do you want me to launch your poll now or after?
I don't know. Lori sent you the poll. I'm not even sure what the poll is.
That's okay.
Go-
Why don't I do it after? So that way
Sure.
we can do a transition to the next person. So I'll let you take it away.
All right. Perfect. Sounds good. Well, welcome, everybody. Let me make this full screen here. And so my name is Doug Bertram. I'm one of the account reps here at MetaFile. We've been helping clients with document management for 44 years this year. So really kind of started a long time ago, helping people capture and prevent the paper from happening. And we really built on that over the years, and a full functioning document management system with workflows and data extraction and everything. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about control, efficiency, and visibility by automating accounts payable and more with MetaViewer. I got a couple slides here just to kind of show you an overview of the solution. And then since we only have 20 minutes, I will give a quick tour of live product, kind of walk you through what that would look like. And then at the end, I'll give you some contact information that you can reach out to us if you wanted to schedule a one-on-one demo with your users in your organization. Typically, we kind of spend an hour talking about your needs and what kind of where we can help you, and then really kind of dive into the product a little deeper than we can in 20 minutes or so. But let's just. So one of the new things that you hear a lot about is AI, or artificial intelligence, machine learning, intelligent recognition, things like that. And we've been utilizing some of that technology in our product for many years now. And really kind of 3 key areas where we utilize that. Using artificial intelligence improves that control, efficiency, and visibility. And probably one of the most notable ones is the data extraction. So when the documents come in, we feed them to this intelligent recognition engine that analyzes the document and extracts the data. We use the data to index or identify what that document's all about in our system, but ultimately we're going to push and create the transactions over in your GP system. So it saves a ton of time by eliminating that manual data entry and reducing the errors related with data entry. Everything kind of comes in and it's extracted and automated. The second aspect that we use artificial intelligence is having the system, once we extract that data, compare that to your Dynamics system. We're very tightly integrated with Dynamics. So if it's related to a purchase order, we can do a series of probably about a dozen checks or so to match it to the PO, whether it's a 2-way or a 3-way match, or however you set that purchase order up. If everything's a perfect match, it can go right into GP, and really nobody touches it in MetaViewer. The system does all of that automatically. When it's not related to a purchase order, we can automate those too. You can build rules into the system to say, hey, you know what, for certain vendors, like let's say a utility vendor, I need it distributed to a variable account or variable or fixed account. distribution, and I don't really need it approved as long as it's within certain dollar amounts. And so then again, we can automate those to where they go in and nobody touches it in MetaViewer. And then really the last aspect of artificial intelligence in our product is really allowing you to program your business rules into the system. You know, everybody has their rules of how they're going to process their documents, but you know, they've been handed down from person to person as people come and go, and they're all up for interpretation, right? Over the years. Well, if you build those rules into a workflow like MetaViewer, then they're adhered to religiously. Everything is programmed in there, and they make sure that they get the right approvals and they flow through the process automatically. Those are the really three aspects where we utilize that artificial intelligence into the AP solution. So really kind of an overview of what the solution is. So the system is designed to watch an email box and automatically pull in the attached invoices without anybody having to watch that email box or anything. The invoices are going to come in, they're going to feed into that intelligent recognition that's going to read and extract the data, using that data in our system, as well as we're going to ultimately push that data over to GP. If you do get paper, obviously, one of the advantages post-COVID is that so many vendors during COVID didn't have a way to print things and mail things. They didn't have people in the office. So a lot of them did switch to that electronic. So we don't see too much paper anymore where people are still getting invoices mailed to them. But if you had like Joe's Snowplowing or somebody like that gave you a paper invoice, you can scan that into the system with a copier or scanner device, and then it still feeds into that same intelligent recognition. And the tooling that we have that reads those documents can actually even read some handwriting invoices pretty well. So I think it's just really an amazing tool to extract that data. Once we extract the data, that's where it goes into those workflows. So that touchless processing, that's really ideal. So with the purchase order invoices or the non-PO automation rules, if we can evaluate those documents and extract the data and push it over there, that's really your ideal. When things don't match, we have a couple workflows to help people figure out if it's related to a purchase order and it wasn't a perfect match. We'll tell you why it wasn't a perfect match. And then we have some tooling in the workflows for that are tightly integrated with your Dynamics GP system to help the user, give them all the tools to figure out why it didn't match, make the corrections, and then eventually push that transaction over to Dynamics. When it's not related to a purchase order, you know, you can only automate certain ones. Like there are certainly certain expense invoices that, you know, there's no placeholder in GP to match to, so you weren't really expecting this invoice to come in. In that case, the way we try to automate those, even if you don't build rules, if you have default account codes set up on the vendor card within GP, we can automatically code the invoice to those defaults. And if you can accept it, you can add to it, you could change it all together if you want. You can route them around for approvals if required. And then once they've been coded and approved, we can push those to Dynamics as well. The standard interface for our solution is all browser-based. We've been browser-based for decades now. And it lends itself nicely because we offer the solution as an on-premises solution if you wanted to put MetaViewer on your servers in your organization and control and manage that, or we offer it as a hosted solution. So basically we can set up the infrastructure for your solution in our data center, and then you kind of just pay a monthly fee to use the product and use the software, and we take care of all the management of the servers and making sure everything stays up to date and everything. But really nice is the choice is yours as to which implementation method you want to go to. In either case, the browser is the standard interface, so it looks and feels exactly the same. To the users, they have no idea. And over the years, we've had some clients that started it on premises and then decided, you know, maybe they switched to Business Central or they switched to F&O or something that's more of a hosted ERP system. Then they want MetaViewer being hosted too, so they can move that to our cloud. The nice thing, the users have no idea that it even moved, other than we took it down for a little bit of time just to kind of stop it on the on-prem and get it over to the hosted and spun back up. So all of the integration with Dynamics, that's all built into the system. It is all real-time lookups into GP as we need it. There is no syncing that has to happen. We don't have to install anything in GP that will, you know, for the integration. And integrations such as, like I said, I kind of told you already, like some of the purchase order information, the chart of accounts. If you add a new account code or you add a new vendor into GP, it's immediately available in MetaViewer. Your purchase orders, you know, your receipts and against those purchase orders, duplicate checks. We do that multiple times throughout the process. mainly from the standpoint, I can't prevent somebody from manually keying something in GP. So if MetaViewer is actually processing an invoice that matches something that somebody's already doing in GP, we want to alert you on that. We want to make sure that you're not processing the same invoice twice. All right, so let's go jump over to my demo system and let's look at some documents. When I log into MetaViewer, as I said, this is a browser. I have MetaViewer GP, my MetaViewer GP system bookmarked. I've logged in. Just like a lot of other software applications, we're very roles driven. So depending on your roles, it depends on what kind of shortcuts you have on your home page here. You can actually, basically, this is kind of my dashboard. So when those numbers change from a 0 to a 3 or a 17, there's something in there that needs my attention. I can click on it and go in there. So preparation, that's where most documents are going to start their journey through MetaViewer when they're requiring user interaction. Once we've handed the transactions off to GP, either through automated processing or manual processing, and then you push it over to GP, we route those to a queue here called waiting for payment, where basically it's going to periodically talk to GP and say, hey, do we have any payment information for that document? And then once we find it, we're going to pull it back, add that to all the information we extracted off the document, how it was coded, what items it matched to, and that payment information. You can use the search, find payables, in process, and complete to really search by any of those parameters. Anything we extracted, that the item numbers that were related to the purchase orders, the GL, how it was coded, the payment information, all of that is searchable right there. So let's hop into this waiting for payment real quick. And if I pull up the purchase order invoice here, for example, in this invoice, I pulled some invoices in today. When they came in, we did pull the purchase order number off. Adjust my screen here. All right, so we did pull the purchase order number off. We did a series of checks and balances. These are all the different things that we checked. And we were able to match that to some receipts that we found in GP. Everything was a perfect match. So we pushed this right over to GP. Nobody touched this document. Over here, we logged all the stuff that we did when this document came in. And now we're just waiting for that payment information. So when we get this payment information, we'll apply that to this invoice and then make it searchable and put it in the archives. If a purchase order invoice failed to match, that's where it's going to come into that preparation queue. So if I hop over there, and let's just look at this one here. So when the invoice came in, we did match it to the PO. We did extract the purchase order number. That PO wasn't in open state against GP, so we specify the type as being a payable type of PO invoice. And over here, you can see where it failed to be an exact match. So now we give the user some tools to figure out why it didn't match. Up above the invoice, we have links to related documents, supporting documents, event payable supporting documents, and vendor supporting documents. You can see I can add additional ones, or I have a view. I've got one in here for a vendor and a payable supporting documents. Payable supporting documents would be something that matches by company, vendor, and then either invoice number or purchase order number. So if I were to click on that one, the view there, this is probably the purchase order. But a bill of lading, a packing slip, all kinds of other things could be payable supporting documents, and they just get matched up automatically when the invoice comes in. Vendor supporting documents, add in view. View, this is probably a W-9. So if I captured all my W-9s into MetaViewer as well, every invoice that comes in, I would expect to see one vendor supporting document like that. Some other shortcuts, other payables related to this vendor, other payables related to this PO. But you can see the purchase order was valid. It was a payable type. The PO number field here is a hyperlink that will make a call to GP to show me more information about that purchase order, including what's still open against it, what's its received status, how many we've invoiced against it, all that kind of information. I do know who the buyer was based off of the purchase order number. So if I wanted to send that to purchasing, I could click send to purchasing and it will know who to go to. If I want to try and figure out why this one didn't match, I can hit the code and reconcile button. And it's going to communicate and pull that purchase order information back from GP and match that against this invoice. And so I can see down at the bottom here, I'm off by $75. If I look at this invoice, we're being invoiced for 20 red shirts. Well, the problem in this invoice is that we've received red shirts and yellow shirts, and so it didn't know exactly which one to match to. So if I erase the yellow shirts in this case, I now match. I can say reconciled and push that over to GP. Other adjustments, maybe we're only being invoiced for 10 red shirts, or maybe there was a cost variance that I want to allow. I can adjust those values and reconcile, make it match. If I needed to adjust the PO, I can do so, and then I can refresh those imports, and they'll come. It'll sync up with GP when that purchase order was adjusted. All right, so that was a purchase order invoice. If we switch over to, let's just pick advanced. Pick a non-PO invoice, something not related to a purchase order. All right, so in this case, the invoice comes in. All the fields with this little icon here, these are all the things that the system is automatically looking for and extracting off of the document. You can see visually on the document, this is where it got the invoice number, where it got the invoice date, the tax, the shipping, the total due, all those pieces of information. Well, if I took code and reconcile on a non-PO invoice, since there's no PO items to pull, what it does is it communicates to the vendor card and pulls back the necessary coding, and I can apply that, I can accept it, or if I wanted to change a code, I can start typing a few characters in account code. It's communicating directly to GP to allow me to adjust those codes, and we can actually do GP one better. We can actually do we can search by description too. So if I did cost of goods sold, I can find all the cost of goods sold codes, but I can code it up. I can add rows. I can actually paste from a spreadsheet if I had 20 different distribution lines or things like that. I can do all that. This company column, we do support intercompany. So if you utilize that feature within GP, you can code to multiple companies. But I basically code that invoice up. I say coded, and here's where kind of that business rule logic comes into play. The system remembers who are the default approvers for the parameters of this invoice, and you can see it picked Department 100 as my default approver. I could hit a drop down and change it. The customers tell us what they want for approval codes here. Basically, it's kind of up to the client to what they want for these. But we can also build rule thresholds in here too. So if I pick Department 600, well, this is a bad example. If the invoice was over his amount, it would have automatically assigned a manager level. If it was over his limit, it would have automatically assigned approver 3 and so on. All right, so I say send for approval. You can see here, this is where it's learning and saying, okay, I changed the default, update the default, or leave the current. And then it's immediately sent to the approver, and it kind of works its way through the process. If I were to log out, log in as Joe. Joe can actually see his invoice would have been in his approvals. He can bring that one up, and he would approve it, or do not pay, return to AP, not mine. When he clicks some of these other ones, he's prompted for a reason, and we'll log that over in this audit trail area here. But just quickly, we'll just say approve. It's going to stamp his approval over there, and then route that back to corporate AP, who gets one last chance to look at it before we push that over to GP. So that goes into final review here. Right, and one of the nice things that we've added to the product, you've always been able to add notes over here in this audit trail area, but if I add a note, I can say, if I had a question for the approver, I don't have to route this back to the approver. I can say, is this okay, Joe? Right, and I can tag Joe on that message, and I can say, Joe. I can tag as many people as I want, but I'm going to just say tag Joe. It's going to add that note over here, and then it's going to send him an email that would look something like this. It shows him a little detail about that invoice. It shows the note that I put in there. He has a hyperlink where he can open a copy of this and respond to me without me having to route this back. And tomorrow I can go back in and I can see his note, or he can tag me and things like that. All right. So we're kind of running out of time here. Let's just get back here real quick. And so other things beyond AP. Some things within the finance area, like expense report workflows, requisitions, payment batch approvals, journal entries, capturing the documents associated with those journal entries and workflowing and creating the journal entries in GP. All that kind of stuff in finance we do as well as more historical document management, HR documents, contracts, accounts receivable, and all the different proof of delivery types of transactions associated with the sales transaction. And the same general principle as that AP solution is really giving you that control, efficiency, and visibility into the documents and in making your processes much more efficient. So really that's kind of a very fast 20-minute presentation of the product. Here's some contact information, kind of very easy email, info@metafile.com. You can shoot us an email, and we can set up a little bit longer in-depth look at the product, as well as maybe just discuss some of your objectives. Where are your pain points? What kinds of problems are you having, and how can we help? But there's our website as well, phone number, however you'd like to reach out to us. We'd certainly love to talk with you a little bit more on one-on-one. There you go, Amy, back to you.
Thanks, Doug. I'm going to launch your poll now. And as in the follow-up, when we do send out the follow-up email, we will have all the contact information in there for everybody so that you'll have it in there too. So thank you so much, Doug, for presenting. Now we're going to move on to Zubin from Dynamic Budgets.
And right here on cue, someone's trying to hit me on Teams. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Having fun here. Trying to get my mouse over here. Alrighty, everyone, great to see you today. My name is Zubin Gidwani with Dynamic Budgets. We have a budgeting tool, budgeting, reporting, and forecasting tool for Dynamics GP. We've been in the market for about 12 years, and we're now transitioning and following some of our customers who are migrating to the cloud ERPs, working with Business Central, Acumatica, and Intacct, and possibly NetSuite by end of year. What we're really focused on is collecting the budgets from your end users. We've worked with lots of different types of customers in different shapes and sizes, a number of different organizations across industries such as professional sports, insurance, healthcare, long-term care solutions, behavioral care solutions, not-for-profits, etc., a lot of industry associations and such. Anywhere from small customers with just maybe a 10-department nonprofit, maybe a $10 million budget, up to several of our customers are over $1 billion in revenue, largest organizations about 28,000 cost centers. So again, all shapes and sizes. The common theme is that you have typically outgrown Excel, where you were using Forecaster, and it's going to take too long to just copy last year's budget to create next year's budget. It's just such an antiquated, painful product to use. Is there a better solution out there? And that's when people turn to us. What we're trying to do is work with your staff. We want to put a tool in their hands to allow them to put in their budgets. We don't want them blaming corporates. Like, that's corporate's numbers. How can you hold me accountable for their numbers? They asked us for it in August, and by the time we got to January, world conditions have changed, and it's not even relevant. So why am I being held accountable for their numbers that were not even realistic? We want them to be able to go into the interface, input their line item expenses, and then hold them accountable and allow them to run a monthly budget to actual variance report. Did I spend this money in this month for this purpose? Not really excited about hearing, it's near end of year and I've got some to use it or lose it type of mentality. We want them to go actually input their expenses for measurable things and have them be able to determine, I did or did not spend it this month. Or had an unplanned expenditure, or maybe there's a cost savings that I can bank for next year. So we're trying to give them the ability to actually get in there and assess their situation. So we want them to input their budget in the first phase. Want them to use this as a reporting tool to come in and annotate their variances of over-under explanations month over month. Ideally, you go into a reforecasting experience or into the next year's budget using that information that you recorded during the course of the year. This is a quick snapshot of the interface. I'm going to actually show you the product directly here, so I'm not going to ditch the PowerPoints here in a bit. But the key things to remember is that if you're thinking, hey, this sounds like an interesting product, but we got to start the budget in a couple of weeks here, and it's due by end of year, and blah, blah, blah. We've got audits and everything else coming up. Our product is installed in 90 minutes. Our typical customer is up and running after 5 to 10 hours of setup. We usually do 3 or 4 sessions. In our first session, we'll basically make the product look and feel like your financial reports, set up reporting labels, set up some custom report formats, and make it feel familiar. In our second session, we're usually jumping right into the belly of the beast, loading your payroll. You're going to run some extracts out of your payroll system, copy and paste those or get those out to Excel. You're going to delete the people who've terminated, add some placeholders for new hires, And then we're going to go ahead and copy and paste that into our interface. You don't have to do one employee at a time. You do the whole shebang all in one copy and paste. Setting up user security, what their permissions look like. And then do you have anything more extravagant or obscure, allocations or custom worksheets? And then let's set up some training videos and tutorials for your users. It is that quick. How can it be that quick? Our competitors typically quote 100 to 200 hours. I was a frustrated customer 10 years ago who said it cannot possibly be that expensive, take that long, and be that painful to use. There's got to be a better way to do this. So yes, Kelly, I'd like to reschedule. Sorry about that. So let's go ahead and jump into the product. And okay, so dynamic budgets does have quite a bit of reporting capabilities. We're not necessarily trying to replace Management Reporter. We want to basically take some of the pressure off the finance team, using this as a real-time reporting tool that the staff can go in, run their own reports anytime they want, answer their own questions, and leave us alone. So this is an example of just a monthly 12-month report. We can come in here, take a look at any one of our accounts, and if they're curious as to where this came from, they can actually right-click and drill down to month or year-to-date transactions. I can click on my various different months. I can scroll over, take a look at my vendor and customer information if there was. This is a GJ, but if there was vendor information, I might have a link right here on the vendor name where I could actually click over to our document management system, something like MetaViewer, and be able to look at a copy of the invoice directly from our system. So we have the ability to crosstalk over to other vendor document management systems, just simply by adding in a URL on the vendor and customer references. This is plain vanilla financials. We can spruce this up and make it look more like a company P&L report. If I want to see my total revenues, total costs across the entire organization, or maybe I wanted to change this and look at my division and department roll-ups, drill down into my individual departments, then go into my expense categories, or maybe I don't need to go to the division, but just to the department level. We're changing this account, the structure of the report on the fly. It's almost like having multiple different pivot tables all available to you just by changing the drop-down selection. Only had to search the one time, bring the data to memory, and then I can change the formatting on and off on the fly right there. I'm going to flip over. We've got multiple entry points into the product, and I'm just going to pause here because I'm kind of like the Energizer Bunny. Ding, 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 ding. I just keep going and going and going. But I want to ask you for questions. So if you have things that you are struggling with in budgeting, if you're kind of scratching your heads as to how our product might solve that problem for you, I'd like you to feel free to put those questions into the chat, and then Amy can interrupt me and we can address those questions in the course of this quick demo. I'm going to get back to talking about budgeting. We have a number of different entry points into the product. I'm going to show you what most of our customers use is what we call a custom budget entry form. And this is something where we can set it up to make it look like a financial report. It could be multiple years of history. The point is that we're trying to say, look, if you're going to ask for $100,000 next year, and you've never spent more than $65,000, I'm probably going to call your bluff that you probably don't need $100,000. But you have the ability to come in and justify yourself. Now, if you have a simplistic operation and only have to, only want to collect an annual number from your staff, they could key in a number right here on screen and hit submit. If you don't need explanations, it can be a very simple product or process. This could have been 12 columns of entry for year one. It could have been 12 columns year one, 4 quarters year two, single annual target year three. You can design this to have as many input columns as you want, but a number of our customers will actually turn this off, make this read only, and say, you have to click into the account to enter your budget. And when they come in here and itemize their expenses. So if this is my training cost up here in my yellow highlights, I might have a CPR cost for training my employees. And how many employees are going to get trained each month? Well, the negotiated rate for the course is $500. All I need the manager to tell me is how many staff he's going to run through training each month. Well, I'm going to think I'll send one person in April, then 2 more people in June, and then 3 people out in, or 7 people out in July. We're trying to take the math away from the users. We can do row 1 times row 2 equals row 3, but we're trying to simplify this such that we can mass deploy this and not have to worry about looking in Excel, checking the spreadsheet to see if they had used any formulas. If the formulas make any sense, ask where did my subtotals go and how did you break the subtotals and why isn't it summing up all the values in the spreadsheet that you had done. We don't want to have to fight with Excel. So we have a very standardized interface where they can add as many rows as they need. If they need to add another 5 rows above or below, or if they want to add in another 25 contracts, they could come in here and add a whole bunch of rows. And this is where they can customize this experience on their own without breaking anything. Now we can do some things that are a little bit more fancy. If you've got an IT manager who's complained like, oh, I've got 25 contracts in here, but I can't look them up out of the vendor system. I don't have access to it, or blah, 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 whatever the explanation is. Well, you could be in the conference room and click the little magnifying glass on that row. You could bring up the vendor and customer interface here. Say, well, how much did I spend in my department 100 last year? And I could bring back all of my vendor expenses from a particular account. Just make believe that these were all in the same account. Maybe this was all my software maintenance expenses. I could come in here, select all of my vendors, add them to my shopping cart, and then bring them back on screen. So just in a couple of button presses, I have now looked up his 10 or 15 vendors that he worked with last year and say, are you going to continue these relationships next year? Well, no, that telephone company was pretty expensive and horrible service, dropping C below for replacement vendor. So we can actually mark this as excluded, leave the breadcrumb trail here to let us know how much we spent in the prior year with the old vendor, and then put in our new vendor down below. It's going to come in at half the cost, $1,100, in the month after that expires. And by the way, to prove that this is not my brother-in-law, I'm going to go ahead and upload a copy of the contract to show you where this came from, with the vendor proposal, the detailed analysis in Excel, or copy of the contract, whatever that might be. You can add your supporting details here. Now, the bottom half of the screen shows them the context. So if they have a blank slate up top, they can actually come down below and they can click on, if they don't know why they spent $1,500 last January, they can actually see that transaction right here, one click away. They don't have to be a licensed GP user to use that functionality. It's just right there, instantly available to them. When they're done with their budget, they hit save, they come back up to the surface, and they go into their next account and put in their details. Amy, do we have any questions in the chat at all?
Not yet. Everyone's very quiet.
Okay.
I guess they're all set with their
on.
budgeting. I doubt it, but
It is the season. So we have an approvals and edit status tracking screen in here. So this is what we call our budget, typically an admin only dashboard. You can expose this to end users, but you can lock accounts through here. You can track the submitted status of the accounts. You can approve the accounts. But what most people use this for is who last touched the accounts and what date and at what time. So if this was all blank, no one's even touched these accounts yet, there's been no activity. We do have the ability to run custom reports. So if you wanted a report that did not feel like a pivot table, but actually had specific rows, skipping lines, color coding columns, color coding rows, indenting, things like that, you can make this look and feel like a management report or report. And you still have the multi-account drill down. So if I wanted to look into my supplies accounts, what makes up that 400,000, I could do my year-to-date transactions. I could see the contributing accounts, and then I could drill down into each individual account to see the transactions that came up. So nice features right in there. I mentioned that we'd like them, once they're done with their budget, to come in here and run a budget to actual variance report. So you could choose your month, choose your department, and look at month budget to actual, maybe also year-to-date budget to actual. You can have both or just one. If they wanted to come in here and see why were they $257,000 under budget, they could actually double click into that row, and they'd see the actual transactions in one half of the screen and the full annual budget in the other half of the screen. Was this a timing difference? Was this a planned expenditure? Yes or no? Ideally, they do the research, they come back over here and drop in an explanation. So if this is my rent account, I might have been $500 over budget because of a travel invoice that got miscoded to the wrong account. But realistically, I was $2,000 over budget, and I'll be over budget for the rest of the year because we rented the second floor of the building. We weren't anticipating that, but now we're going to be over budget. And next year, I left my note, oh, it's actually escalating next year. I need $2,500 a month. So when they go back to budget this account next year, 6180, my rent account, and they're sitting here as a new manager, just inherited this department from somebody else, and they had no overlap, and they don't know what they're supposed to put in for the rent. Well, maybe they can check to see if there are any comments down here, and it said budget's going to be over $2,000 a month, and maybe just I need to remember to put in $2,500 a month for next year's budget. So you can use the system to teach you to make better decisions for that institutional knowledge. If you've got high turnover, you can have your staff make notes today, even though they're not going to be there tomorrow. And then the new inheriting manager can come in and use that information to take actions. We have lots of other pieces in here. We have a very detailed payroll module with a salary module, an hourly module, and even a staffing schedule that's well suited for help. All the rest of this information is informational for reporting purposes. Very detailed payroll if you want to go down to itemized expenses for all your individual tax and benefits. And then you can either input them in as an hourly orientation, where we have the number of hours worked by employee by pay period. Your pay period could be a month, could be 2 weeks, could be bi-monthly. You'd have straight time and overtime and have everything calculate out in detail. You can preview that over here. And then for the executive summary report, you can go out to the reports menu and bring up something like this that shows the total dollars by bucket, by employees, and group this by departments. Or maybe you want to group this by job positions or different pieces of information. We could have done this. It's similar to Advanced Smart List in GP, where you've got the ability to drag column headers and group and subtotal on the fly. So I'm up at kind of out of time right now, but we've got lots and lots of pieces. Think of this as the Swiss Army knife of budgeting, lots of blades that we can use to accomplish any particular task. And more than happy to give you more details on a direct demo. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Zubin. All right, we are coming down to the wire with our last demo of today. Thank you again all for being here with us for our GP demo day. We truly appreciate it. I do have a slide, David, that I'll share first before we hand the reins over to you to actually start demoing, if that works.
That works. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, can you, oops, let me go, where am I? Where am I? I don't even know where I am. Here I am. Can you see my slides? Do you see the agenda slide?
No, I do not. I'm still seeing the last slide from the demo.
Okay, so my screen is loading, so maybe it's taking a minute.
I think I may be still sharing.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, I still see Zubin. Yeah.
There we go.
All right. Well, as now you know, Blue Moon is up, so we wanted to just show a couple of slides before David kicks things off. Blue Moon's, go ahead. Did you want to talk, David, or do you want me to do the intro?
You can do the intro.
Okay, so Blue Moon has been a long-standing ISV, as well as a lot of these ISVs that have been on this call today, showing you their products that have been around for the GP space for many years, helping support GP, continuing to support GP and the longevity of it for the next few years and beyond. And they've also, like many ISVs, are creating these products for other ERPs, Dynamics 365 Business Central, and F&O and Acumatica. And in case you didn't know, they did acquire all of Encore's solutions back in 2020. So if you are, or 2021, so that's, and David was one of those people who worked for Encore, so he knows all of those products inside and out. So he'll be showing us a couple today. And then we have over 2,000 customers using these solutions. So David's going to show subscription billing and project tracking, obviously high level, because these products are very in depth and you can show a lot of features and functionality, but I know David's going to do high level overview of these two. So I'll let you take it away, David.
Thank you. With subscription billing, it allows you, it's basically a product that's going to let you, here, let me share my slide. Sure. So basically, subscription billing is a tool that sits inside GP. It allows you to create your contracts that's going to handle your recurring invoicing and billing. You can set up the contract any which way you want, and it'll actually generate the invoices based upon the cycles that you create. It can handle high volume of contracts, multiple cycles for every different line item that's on the contract. It also leverages the existing revenue recognition options that it sit inside GP if you have the deferral and revenue recognition installed. We actually added a new feature that just came out last month. You can now automate price increase changes for your contract lines. So if you're going to be doing recurring invoicing and you knew in advance price changes are coming, you could actually predefine that on their contracts and it would automatically update. One of the other products that we're actually going to go over is project tracking. Now, project tracking is an easy to use solution, giving the ability to capture your expenses and revenue at the time of GP transaction entry. You could predefine your projects. It's highly customizable per user. There's not really one way to do your setups. So you can actually define how much detail you need to actually track for your projects. It also has additional add-on modules for budgeting and importing. Now we will go through a little bit about the demo. I'm first going to go with subscription billing. Subscription billing, like I said, sits inside GP. It has its own setup options, just as a high overview to give you an idea of the available options that are there. It has the ability to do line item consolidation, which basically means you could have multiple lines on your contract, but it actually, when the invoice generates, it generates as a single line item on the invoice. So it's kind of like giving you the ability to create a kit for service-based items without actually creating a kit. It also has the ability to auto price update. That's our new feature that we added. And you could also do contract consolidation. So I can actually generate multiple contracts for our various customers. It doesn't even have to be the same customer. But I want to generate a single invoice for all the line items across multiple contracts in a parent-child relationship. Again, with the deferrals, you can predefine your deferral setup options. So if the period is closed, it could be the start of the deferral is going to be in the first open period. It has the ability to prorate, so it recalculates the unit price based on proration settings that are set up on the contract line and in setup. Pretty easy to use. When you go to create a new contract, you open up the subscription billing contract entry, you select your customer. It defaults the various fields similar to what's on the SOP transaction from the customer card, such as site ID, bill to, ship to, tax, salesperson, sales territory, currency ID, the payment terms, and even the account receivable account, all of which can be overridden on the contract. When you go to add your line item to the contract, you just enter the item. It defaults those same values that are needed from the actual contract line item. It defaults many of them from the actual contract header. Those also can be overridden. In this case, I had mine predefined with deferral settings. So when I added this item, it automatically defaulted to the actual deferral settings that I'm going to be using for line deferrals on the contract. And that's because we have a setup option that allows you to predefine those options if you wanted to. I would just set the frequency that I'm going to be invoicing at, set the start date, which defaults the next bill to be the same day for the next bill date, but they can be different. That's how the proration calculation will occur, is based on the difference if I have it enabled. Proration can also occur at the end of the life of the line item on the contract. So if I set an end date when I'm going to stop invoicing, if it's before the end of the natural billing cycle, then it'll also do the proration calculation then. With our new feature, I actually enabled it to auto update this line item by zooming into the unit price, and I predefined it as a scheduled update. It doesn't necessarily have to be the next billing cycle that's going to use, but in this case, that's what I used. And as you can see, I set up 2 scheduled update, 5% and 3% for the one after. So as soon as I generate the invoice, it's automatically going to update the unit price on this. And well, we also have inquiry window that's available to view the scheduled updates for those contracts, and I can filter, see all the line items as well. We're also going to keep track of the SOP document number as I'm generating for those schedules, so I can see when did it get used. For the SOP document creation process, if I just needed to generate a single SOP from a single contract, I could use the instant create. On a mass scale, you would actually go to the create SOP documents window. You would actually enter in your billing due date, your document date, your batch ID. In this case, I actually set up a template so it automatically defaults those ranges and everything that I was looking for. It's a 2-step process out of the box. It can be set up as a 1-step process. I always recommend a 2-step for first-time users because you can actually see an edit list. Now, this time it actually went to exceptions, and I did that on purpose because if there is an error during the SOP document creation, it'll actually stop and give you the validation. And the reason why I gave one is because I actually have the contract open contract entry. We can actually create a lock on the process as soon as you access the contract, preventing anybody or any process from making changes to this contract until the lock is cleared. The lock is actually cleared when you actually close the contract from contract entry. So then I can actually proceed. The edit list report is a summary view. The detail report is a detail review giving the line item details. When I'm ready to create, I just go fast create. And it even gives me a report of what it created. Now, if I still have this window open, I can press the transactions button. It'll open up the very first invoice that was in the batch based on the sort order sent in the window. In this case, I did do line deferrals on this line item in the contract. So you can actually see it pass those deferral settings over. So when this is posted, it's actually going to generate the deferrals. And as you can see here, the unit price automatically updated based upon the schedule that I actually created. And it captured the soft document number that was used for that scheduled line. In addition, during the soft document creation process, we're also creating our own document history. And we actually keep track of the actual order status. So if this is posted, it'll say posted. If I end up voiding, it would say voided. If I posted and void the transaction, it would actually say posted and then voided. With subscription billing, I can actually also generate the returns. So if by chance, after it was posted, something was wrong, and you needed to credit the customer back, we actually give you the ability to create the return right from subscription billing. You can pick and choose which line items, if there are multiple line items on that invoice, which one is getting returned. You can adjust the unit price as well. So if it's only going to be a partial return, I could do a partial return based on quantity, or I can adjust the unit price. Because of the returns, we're also giving you the ability to create the reversal of the deferrals as well. So on your return, you create the reversing deferral entries. This has to do with the other product, which we will get into. Oh, I selected the wrong again. There we go. In this case, it didn't do it, so I'd have to check to see why. That's because I didn't have the feature enabled. So if I had it enabled, it would have done it. For reporting purposes, it comes with its own smart list objects. You can actually view the schedules in a smart list if you wanted to. If you had the auto price update, you can view the contract header, contract detailed, contract limited, and as well the deferrals. With the deferral smart list object, you can view it as unposted. So if prior to posting the transaction, you can see the deferral entries for projected deferrals. For posted, we're keeping track. It also, our smart list object allows you, if line deferrals are being used, it allows you to track it, each deferral entry to the sales transaction from the contract down to the exact line item the deferral entry was for each journal entry. The save space, once a contract is expired, you can archive it using the archive process. We also have our own reporting options that are available. The contract item listing, comprehensive contract item listing, they're basically the same. One is just going to give you the deferral settings if there is one. It comes with its own contract agreement. You can review the invoiced, what has been invoiced from the contract, and we also offer a forecasting revenue report. The forecasting revenue report is basically looking at the actual contract itself for what line items based upon the range that you set in the report window, and what line items are going to be within that range based upon their next bill date and quantity. And it projects that revenue going forward. It does not take into consideration proration. So if there's the end of cycle or beginning of cycle and it's prorated, it will not indicate the proration amount. One of the other products that I wanted to go over is the project tracking. Project tracking, again, allows you to, it sits inside GP and allows you to create your projects and customize them based upon your setup needs. For each setup, you will be distributing the transactions to the project. It's subdivision by the amount type. So if it's labor, material, or sales, or cash, or as an adjustment. And then the first subdivision is a breakdown code. Breakdown code is only a required field if you're using project tracking budgeting. In addition, you have 7 user-defined fields, which you can define what those fields are and what the values are going to be. You can flag them if they're required, and if you do have project tracking budgeting, you could list them as being used in the budget as well. In this case, it does work with subscription billing because on this contract itself, I actually specified what the project distributions will be on the contract, which when I created my invoice, it flowed those distributions onto the actual invoice itself. Which from the inquiry window, I can see what distributions to track my revenue and expenses for this project. As you saw, when I created the return, it asked me if I want to copy the project distributions onto the return. So I said yes. It also copied that distribution onto the return. In addition, the project tracking can be set up to not only just start distributing to new transactions. I can go back and add existing transactions that have already been posted, whether they're open or historical transactions, to a project. We have that ability through the add update window. And similar to subscription billing, it actually has its own smart list objects as well. So I can view the distributions for anything that was posted, any projects that's closed, anything that's unposted. If I created a budget, I can actually view the budget through the smart list object as well. We also have this smart list object called AP transactions with PT. This one is basically going to display any work and open AP transactions and what the project distributions are for those transactions. Its primary use is meant as a quick review on the AP, as well as a template for the importer. We have with the project tracking the importer, it has the ability to import new projects, which also update existing projects. You can import project adjustments with the GL, so it actually creates the GL as part of the import, or without, because you can create an adjustment and not affect your GL. It's just an adjustment for the amount buckets on the project, such as starting balances. And we can add PT to transactions, and that one is only going to be used for AP vouchers. So that smart list object is used as the template for AP vouchers. So I can go to the smart list, export it out, insert in the Excel file what the project I want to distribute to, the breakdown code if I wanted to, and it has the additional fields for the user-defined fields. And then I import that file back in, and it would update the project distributions if it existed on the transaction, or create new ones if it doesn't. As well with the adjust screen, if I wanted to, I can actually make adjustments to existing transactions. There we go. So if I had an existing transaction that was assigned to this project and it was actually the incorrect project or incorrect, wanted to use defined fields or incorrect breakdown code, I can make those changes through the adjust window. I could also make those changes through the add update window. The main difference is the adjust window doesn't let me remove the distributions or split them or change the amount types. It only lets me reset the values for the project, use the defined fields in the breakdown code. Whereas the add update allows me to add distributions to existing transactions, also change the distributions on transactions that have already been distributed to a project.
David, I just want to let you know it's getting the time.
Okay. In this case, I can just remove it and delete it. It has its own various reports such as project analysis, budget variance, GL recognition, summary reports, and as well as receivables outstanding balances. The other thing that you could do with project tracking is normally it's going to distribute a distribution row to the project for every distribution row that's on the transaction. But at the project level, if you needed to, you could split that distribution row to multiple project distributions rows. So one sales distribution at the sales transaction or one purchase distribution at the AP voucher level can be split to multiple different projects or multiple different divisions of using defined fields based upon amount. Any further, if anybody wanted to go through a more detailed analysis, demo either product, we can. And just a little addition to the previous demo that you did watch, you'll probably notice that he mentioned Advanced Smart List. That's actually our product as well. That does the grouping. It's SiteGP. And that's it for the high-level demo.
Thank you so much. I did want to launch a poll for you, so we'll do that now. Which one do you struggle with? Generating accurate and timely recurring invoices, managing projects in GP, and need an easier solution than project accounting. If you do have any questions before we wrap it up, feel free to put them in the Q&A section or the chat section. We can get to them now. Otherwise, we will end our GP demo day and we will be sending everyone the recording and in the next day or so. So is there any questions?
Oh, the one thing I forgot to mention, if anybody did want more details, I could be reached at product support at Blue Moon ISV, as well as actually it's no longer Amy, it's but the channel management could also be reached at channelmanagement@bluemoonisv.com, and that would be Dawn.
And we'll put that contact information in our follow-up email as well, so you have it. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being on here for demo day. Thank you everyone, all the ISVs that presented. I'm so appreciative of you joining us and showing us these amazing solutions of helping our GP users use GP more effectively, streamlining business processes, saving time, automating. So thank you everyone for being here and I appreciate your time. So have a great day.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.